Hello, welcome to Web of Stories. My name is Melinda and I am here with my October book haul. And I am filming this on Tuesday, the 29th of October. That is important because I thought I was going to have to wait and film this and it might not get up to November because of library book sale. However, I am flexing my willpower muscles and not going to the library book sale. The truth of the matter is, I realize this, there's really not any books that I want. There are some books that I want that I've already read that I want to have for keeper shelves, and that's fine, but it's not a rush to get those. But I also know that even if I go with the mindset of only buying those books at the library book sale, I always end up buying some impulse buys. So I decided that I'm just going to skip it. Call it good and skip it. And so I've got a nice stack here. Again, 95% was mindful book buying. I have a couple little slips in here, but nothing big. But yeah, let's get started. So some of these you've seen before on other things, and I'll kind of tell you, I think I have a plan to read quite a few of these. So we'll see. The first one is The Mighty Red by Louise Erdrich. I will be reading this in November with Angelia at Read and Reread. It has taken all of my willpower not to read it before that, but I'm very excited to read it, even though it has a stupid Read with Jenna sticker on it, but it also is signed. So yes, this is Louise Erdrich's most recent book. I pre-ordered it like the day I heard about it. I pre-ordered it. I always get Louise Erdrich's books from Birch Bark, which is her bookstore, which is why they always either come signed or with a plate to go in and sign it. And I just feel like for her, especially, that's the way to do it. I usually pick up one or two other Indigenous books by Indigenous authors when I do that. And I did do that in this case. It's just that those all came earlier because I pre-ordered this months ago. I'm not going to go too far into it. A lot of people are talking about this book right now, so I don't need to say much about it, but I will talk about it once I finish my buddy read with Angelia. I just realized I lied. That was not the first book I got. It's the first physical book in my pile. The first book that I actually got was one that I had been saving a Libro credit for, and that is a lovely one by Ketanji Brown Jackson. This is a possibility for Nonfiction November. If you don't know who Ketanji Brown Jackson is, you should. She is the newest and the youngest member of the U.S. Supreme Court. She was nominated by Joe Biden, President Biden. I want to say in 2021. Oh, I could be wrong about that. It was, yeah. Anyway, she's also the most qualified person to ever sit on the U.S. Supreme Court, in that there's different areas of law that you can practice in working up to being on the Supreme Court. And she's the only one who's actually done everything. So I've heard this is really good. I've kind of been holding it for Nonfiction November. So I'm really hoping to get to it this month. She's my join because she most recently joined the Supreme Court. So the next book is another one that I've talked about in a video, and I may not stick with this copy, as you will see, but it is Othello. Again, this is not a trade paperback copy, but I cannot find a trade paperback copy of this edition of Othello. I actually thought I was ordering one, and this is what it came. I have put myself on a wait list at Thrift Books for a used trade paperback version, but who knows if that's ever going to come. One of the big drivers that would have gotten me to the library book sale was to see if they had one of these, but they don't usually have these, so it didn't seem like it. But anyway, this is the November pick for the Bard Room, our Shakespeare project, so I will obviously be reading this in November. And if you saw my second November TBR video, which came out, well, today as I'm filming it, but Tuesday, as you see this, you'll see in the notes that I forgot to mention this because I always forget something. And this time it was this one. I also forget another one, but that's in there. You'll see it. Okay, so then I have my book of the month selection, and that is this one, The Book of Witching by C.J. Cooke. I actually had hoped to get to this in October. I don't think it's going to happen, but I don't think I'm necessarily going to hold it until next October because I am actually pretty interested in reading this. It kind of sounds a little bit like last spring. No, I'm wrong. I'm thinking of a different book, but I'll read a little bit of this. Clem gets a call that is every mother's worst nightmare. Her 19-year-old daughter, Erin, is unconscious in the hospital after a hiking trip with her friends on the remote Orkney Islands. after a hiking trip on, let me start that over. Clem gets a call that is every mother's worst nightmare. Her 19-year-old daughter, Erin, is unconscious in the hospital after a hiking trip with her friends on the remote Orkney Islands met a horrifying end, leaving her boyfriend dead and her best friend missing. When Erin wakes, she doesn't recognize her mother and she doesn't answer to her name, but insists that she is someone named Nix. Clem travels to the site of her daughter's accident, determined to find out what happened to her. The answer may lie in a dark secret in the history of the Orkneys, a woman wrongly accused of witchcraft and murder 4 centuries ago. Clem begins to wonder whether Erin's strange behavior is a symptom of a broken mind or the effects of an ancient curse. That sounds really good, and I just wish I had had time to read it this month during spooky season, but it might still happen in November. We'll see. I am excited to read this. Okay, now I have 3 Cobo books. I think I mentioned this story before, why I have this one, which is The Professor by Charlotte Brontë. I'm kind of miffed about this because I actually purchased this book on Cobo like a year ago. However, the edition that I purchased no longer exists. Like, I can't download it. It's unavailable. It's not in their catalog. Nothing. Made me very angry. So I ended up buying another copy. I got the Barnes & Noble version copy, and I think that's probably more likely to stick around. And it did stick around long enough for me to read it. I have already read this book, and I have thoughts. We will talk about them in my weekly wrap-up. Anyway, while I was at Cobo, and here's where my impulse, this is non-mindful book buying. While I was at Cobo buying The Professor, I kind of went through like the sales, and I found 2 books that stuck out to me. And these are both that had kind of been, I had wanted to read. So it's not like they were complete impulse buys. There were books that were already on my radar, but they just happened to be on sale. The first one is The Librarianist by Patrick DeWitt. Patrick DeWitt is Canadian, but he lives in Portland, so he's a local author. I've heard good things about it. However, I heard good things about it from a source that I don't necessarily agree with, so we'll see how that one goes. And the second one is Free Food for Millionaires by Min-Jin Lee. I actually really liked Pachinko. Well, I liked Pachinko. I didn't love Pachinko. I really liked Pachinko. Let's put it that way. And I liked her writing. There was just some choices in there. I was like, really? But I am interested in trying Free Food for Millionaires. I don't have a plan for when I'm going to read these, but there you go. Okay, so the next one that this is from Audible that I got. This is the one that I talked about last week, and I will go ahead and say the title, and we'll see if the bots come after me, which was only part of the reason why I didn't didn't verbally say the title in my video. I don't think it really made a difference because I had the title in the notes. But anyway, it's Who Could Ever Love You by Mary Trump. Mary Trump is the daughter of Donald Trump's older brother. And this is a story of her father and herself. I had quite a few thoughts on it. So I would suggest, if you're interested in this, going back and reading my most recent, watching my most recent weekly wrap up, because this was not a perfect book for me, but it was still very interesting. So yeah, that was that one. Okay, and then we're going to get back to some print books. I think, I only have one that's not print, but that's a big one. But the rest of these are all on print. So then I have The Man in Black by Elly Griffiths. This is a short story collection, and some of the short stories in here are Ruth Galloway short stories, which I'm very excited about because I love Ruth Galloway. However, some of these are also from her Brighton mystery series, which I've not started yet. So I haven't decided how I'm going to read this. If I'm going to pick or choose and just read the ones that are like Ruth Galloway or standalones, or what. I do see in here there is a Ruth Galloway, well, it's actually Ruth Galloway's cat Christmas story. So I may read that one. But yes, as I said, I don't know which one's tied to the series I haven't read yet. So we'll see. But I do like Elly Griffiths. I like her writing. I miss Ruth. So she has a new series, by the way, starting next year, which I have already pre-ordered the first book from, because I had to get it from Blackwell's. Okay, so the next 3 they're kind of impulse buys, but I went in with a plan saying I could buy up to 3 books for myself when I went to Powell's, downtown Powell's recently. Bookish Best Friend and I have season tickets to the main stage at Portland Center Stage, and that theater is just a couple blocks from Powell's, and Powell's is actually between the theater and the train. I always take the Maxon, so it's like right there, you walk right by it. So we always go to Powell's afterwards. But I had told myself I could buy 3 books plus if I could get a trade paperback copy of Othello, which I still couldn't. So I do have my 3 books. I will say that was not my favorite shopping trip to downtown Powell's, because we happened to go there on a day when they were reorganizing the store. And wow, that is quite an effort. It was the only book we were like specifically looking for was that Othello book. And it was like, we had to go up and down the stairs trying to find it because the sections were all around, and then we couldn't find the mystery section. And it was just a huge ordeal. But the next time I go to Powell's, which might be in November, they say might, we don't have a show to see in November. We do have one to see in December, but I've already told Bookish Best Friend I'm not interested in going to Powell's that day because we're going on December 21st, and I'm not going into a retail establishment if I can help it that close to Christmas. But in Portland, just across from the main library, a new bookstore has opened. It's called Grand Gesture Books, and it is a romance-only bookstore. And we were hoping to go to the grand opening when we saw our last play, but then the grand opening was the next week, so we didn't get a chance to. But we're going to meet, and we're going to go check out Grand Gesture Books. I may go back to Powell's after that. I don't know. We'll see. Anyway, these are the 3 books I picked up at Powell's. So this first one, I had heard about on the She Done It podcast, and I found it very intriguing when Carolyn Crampton was talking about it and just the whole thing. But this is The Red House Mystery by A.A. Milne. This is a crime novel by the guy who created Winnie the Pooh. He loved crime novels, so he wrote one, but then realized that he liked reading them more than he liked writing them. So this is the only crime novel he wrote. But it is supposed to be very good. So they have a nice new edition of it, so I picked that up. I was like, yes, I have to read that. Of course I have to read that. And then I have mentioned this one on my November pile of possibilities, and that is Where They Last Saw Her by Marcie R. Rendon. Rendon is the author of the Cash Black Bear series. Black Bear series, which is a crime series around an Indigenous woman in the 1970s. And I enjoy it. It's not a perfect series, but I enjoy it. This is a standalone. I believe it's present day. I'm not sure about that though. But I am really interested in trying this because it's outside of the Cash Black Bear series. I still have one more book to read in that one, but I'd like to see what she does with another character. And it sounds really fascinating. It's about Indigenous women disappearing. So, as I said, I might get to this one in November. And then this one was, it was a fluke, but you know what? I can't turn down a good short story collection. So this is the Best Short Stories 2024, the O. Henry Prize winners, edited by Amor Towles. So, I will be honest, I wasn't sure if I was going to pick this up until I noticed Jess Walter, has a story in it. And you know I have a love of Jess Walter, but these are not just American. There is at least one in here that's translated, at least one. And let me go through some of the authors here that kind of jump out at me. Jai Chakrabarty, Kate DiCamillo, Dave Eggers, who I don't really like, but we'll see. Allegra Hyde and Jess Walter. So there's some well-known authors on this one. So I don't know when I'm going to get to this one, but it's going on the short story rotation shelf. So, and speaking of short stories, it's that time of year again. I've had these 2 on pre-order since last October, which reminds me I need to go put next year's on pre-order before I forget. The first one is The Best American Short Stories 2024, edited by Lauren Groff. Isn't this cover, like, it's a total change from what they've had in the past, but I think it's quite lovely. But yeah, so let me go through. These are just short stories. There's no other constraint on it other than they are American and I think published in 2024. Let me see if there's any authors that jump out on me. Alexandra Chang. See here, Allegra Hyde, a different one by Allegra Hyde. Jhumpa Lahiri, there you go, there's a big one. Jhumpa Lahiri, Daniel Mason, Paul Yoon. So we have those among others in here. And then of course I also had to get The Best American Mystery and Suspense 2024, edited by S.A. Cosby. The one bad thing about the one is there's not actually a story by S.A. Cosby in here. And S.A. Cosby's, I know he's like, his novels are good. I mean, his novels are very good. I'm not knocking his novels at all, but I actually think he's a better short story writer. But he edited this one. So let's go through and see some of the stories in this, some of the authors in this one that jump out. Megan Abbott, right there. Alyssa Cole, Tananarive Due. Jordan Harper, that sounds familiar. Anyone else jumps out at me? Lisa Unger, she did last year's. She was the editor for last year. And LaToya Watkins. So there's some big names in this one as too. So that's the end of my print books, but I still have one more book. I have one more book, and it's that book. I can't show you because I have it on my Kobo. I got it last night a little earlier than I thought. I thought it would come at 9, but it was there at like 8:30, so I was so excited. And that is, of course, The Grey Wolf by Louise Penny. The only reason I'm filming this video now is because my Kobo is charging. I went to bed last night at like 9, which is so unheard of for me. And I was just like, I'm going to read. But I also didn't get a lot of sleep last night, so I didn't read as much as I thought because I'm like, well, I'm already falling asleep. I should just go to bed. I didn't get to read as much as I wanted last night. But really, it's my priority until I get it done to finish it, which is not great because I have a buddy read and a book club book that I have to finish. But Louise Penny takes, she takes precedent. So I'm not that far into it. I think I'm actually 15% into it. And I peeked online and someone was complaining that the voices of Gamache and Beauvoir didn't sound like they normally do. And I will say I don't agree with that. I don't agree with that. I think that they're more familiar with each other. They've always been familiar with each other, but for a long time it was a very boss and subordinate, and then now there's more to their relationship. If you haven't read the books, I'm not going to spoil it. It's not a huge spoiler, but I'm not going to spoil it. They have a more involved relationship, not romantic. It's a thing, and I think that familiarity, that's a little bit more familiar, is just because of that. It all felt very authentic to me. So everyone has right to their opinion. If that's how those people felt, that's how they felt. I'm just saying that's not how I felt. So far, 15% in the book. We've already had a really big thing happen. So there you go. I'll probably have this finished in the next day or two because, again, it's my priority. But yeah, so as I said, I have 16 books here. I have read 2. I will have read 3 by the end of the month. So that is 13 books going on my TBR. And I don't think I have any more pre-orders coming for the rest of the year. Let me do a quick check. Nope. I don't have any pre-orders until February. So, oh, by the way, that Elly Griffiths book, it's called The Frozen People, and it's releasing on February 13th in the UK, if anyone's interested, because it's already on my thing. Anyway, that is my TBR for this month. Of those that I did not say I already had a plan to read, so like buddy reads and stuff like that, does anyone think which one I should start with? Let me know. Thanks. Like, subscribe, join my Discord, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.